Okay, so here I am. Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Gary. I'm trying to work on my YouTube channel here, and I thought that one good way to do it would be to sit down and maybe just talk about photography. And so tonight I'd like to sit down and talk about photography. What I'd like to talk about this evening is probably more applicable to beginners or maybe intermediate photographers, and not necessarily professionals or people that have been doing it for a while. First thing I'd like to do is encourage anybody that wants to be a photographer not to wait until they have the right camera or the camera they think they need to be a photographer. I had a good conversation this couple days ago with a woman that told me she was a photographer, and then right afterwards she said that all she uses is her cell phone, but she hopes to get a digital SLR someday. And I said, well, that's the best attitude to have, is to be a photographer with what you have. So if you have your cell phone, use it. If you have a entry-level digital SLR, most of the time you can get the same photographs that I do. If you don't have an advanced camera yet, make sure that you know the camera that you have to all of its abilities before you start moving on to something else. Getting better equipment won't necessarily advance your abilities. For some reason, your skills start to exceed the ability of the camera, then perhaps. Or if you start making money with the camera, then that could justify perhaps moving forward into a professional situation. So don't let the camera be your reason or excuse for not pushing forward with just your skills. A lot of times being challenged with lesser gear will move your skill forward. So in the beginning, don't worry about shooting raw, don't worry about shooting manual, just get out there and shoot. But certainly, as soon as you can do it, start learning your manual settings. Even if you're using the program settings such as shutter priority or aperture priority in the beginning, at least understand how they work, and you can ease into shooting full manual someday. But not being able to understand manual photography or thinking that you have to shoot raw is no reason not to go out and use your camera. So in the beginning, try to understand your camera. You have automatic settings that will allow you to set different modes that will process your photograph. It will save it as a JPEG. You just download it and you can use the photograph right out of your camera. You have landscape, you have neutral settings, portrait settings, stuff like that. So play with some of those program settings inside your camera. But as you progress in your photography and your ability and your skills, you'll probably want to be pushing your photography to a level that's outside of the realm of shooting in JPEG and a program mode inside your camera. Ultimately, the program mode inside your camera was put in there by an engineer when he designed the camera. And so instead of going by the processing algorithm that they programmed into the camera, shoot raw, take it out of your camera, put it through a program such as Lightroom or something like that that allow you to make your own adjustments and create your own work. So like I said in the beginning, when you first get into photography, don't buy into the people that say you have to shoot raw and you have to shoot manual right off the bat. I do encourage you to do it as soon as possible, but if it's going to limit you from going out and enjoying your camera, don't let that stop you. Okay? There are also times when you really don't need to shoot raw, even if you can shoot raw. There are times when I'm photographing a wedding, trying to get candid shots. If you shoot JPEG instead of raw, then your buffer doesn't fill up as fast and you can shoot more rapid fire photos in a row without it stopping on you. And so you could shoot JPEGs in situations where you don't plan on doing a lot of processing afterwards. But the good shots, you'll want to shoot raw so you can post-process. But there are times when it really is beneficial to shoot JPEGs. So if you don't plan on doing any processing or very little processing, you can fit more of them on a card, and like I said, your buffer doesn't fill up when you're shooting. So once you start learning processing, try not to rely too much on presets or one-click processing. Although it'll allow you to perhaps create an artful photograph in the beginning, it can sometimes allow you to create a dependency on these and not allow you to expand your skills that will allow you to do some more advanced processing. I'm saying this from a point of view of a person that wants to do artful photography, and that's kind of what I consider some of my work. My work is photography that I process into what I feel is the most beautiful rendering of the scene while I was there. So even if it isn't exactly like that, I don't add anything to it, but I still take those raw files and I try to make it as beautiful as I can and adjust as nicely as I can. So I'm kind of coming to you from that point of view. Also, the advice that I give you is coming from a landscape photographer's point of view. Although I do photograph portraiture and events and real estate, I am primarily a landscape photographer. But everything that I use in all the other avenues of photography or genres of photography are skills that I've learned through landscape photography. Landscape photography has challenged me the most. So you'll want to definitely learn how to shoot raw, process your photos, and be able to manually make all of the adjustments and stuff that you want to do in post-processing afterwards without relying necessarily on a preset. There are programs where you can start with a preset and then go over and make adjustments from there, and that could be a head start on where you may want to go. But the way I do it, I like to start from the very beginning of the workflow and follow my own vision in the direction that I'd like to go. So it's all personal preference, but from a processing point of view, if you rely on just one-click processing, then you won't expand your skills any further. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the extras, some of the bells and whistles and stuff that people like to accumulate along the way. There's a lot of these things that can cost a lot of money, especially the cumulative cost as time goes by. Photography can be full of trinkets and toys and little things that can cost anywhere from $50 to $300, and that's not talking about lenses. We're talking about different filters and all kinds of stuff. So okay, the three things that I can't live without are my tripod, my camera and lens, and a circular polarizer. So it's nice to have a neutral density filter. A neutral density filter basically are sunglasses for your lens. It blocks a little bit of light and allows you to extend your shutter speed. So if it's bright, then you can put that on there and knock some light out. But a circular polarizer will do that, and in a lot of cases I can use the circular polarizer to affect a lot of the scenes that I photograph. I'm one that photographs a lot of forest scenes and a lot of creeks and waterfalls, and there are many times when I photograph these scenes in the rain, and so the foliage, especially in the springtime when the foliage is nice and green, if it's wet, if you use your polarizer and turn the polarizer, the green will come out because it'll take the reflection off the top of the leaves. You can use it to affect your sky or the surface of some water, perhaps, in certain cases. I use it very little to affect the sky. I'm typically taking reflection off of water or off of foliage along the water or a waterfall. But sometimes a few little gadgets are good to have. A shutter release is good. You can get by without it if you set your timer on your camera to go off at about 5 seconds or so, but a remote shutter release is always good, and I like to have one that's wired. I don't really trust the remote control ones. I've had them fail. And then some neutral density filters. They'll come in handy if you want to slow your shutter speed down. And then maybe some grad filters, but grad filters can be tricky because sometimes they can cause some darkness in areas of your scene that you don't necessarily want. So I'll do some more videos on some filters and how they're used and how I use them in the future. But like I said, camera lens, tripod, and circular polarizer, and I could do most all of my photographs. And also there are certain situations where you shouldn't try to put the cart in front of the horse, like trying to take shortcuts. I've had several beginning photographers come to me wanting me to teach them how to focus stack, which I'm happy to do, but I really try to encourage them to learn proper focus standards and the way to focus properly, and pretend that they don't have the option to focus stack and do their best to try to understand just the basic concept of how minimum focus distance and the background in focus interact with each other, and how to overcome that, and how the aperture works in focus and all that stuff. So once you learn how to focus the scene properly in one shot, then when you go on into the future to push your skills even further, then you can learn how to focus stack properly. So if you learn how to focus properly, then your focus stacking will be a lot easier, because focus stacking can be kind of tricky. So my point is that learn the basics, learn them well before you try to figure out how the big guys do all the fancy stuff, because chances are the big guys didn't skip over all the stuff that you really probably should learn in the beginning anyway. The big guys have probably been doing it for a long time and practicing for a long time and made a lot of mistakes and learned how to focus properly, and then moved on to some of their more advanced processing stuff. So, oh yeah, and don't rush your progression, and don't get in a big hurry and about where you think that you should be in your progression as a photographer, because you'll get discouraged if you feel like you're not going fast enough, if you're not learning quick enough, or if somebody else is learning faster than you, or having more opportunities than you, or somebody else did this and that. Don't worry about it, because we're really into photography because photography makes us feel good. It's personal, it's ours. We don't all drive down the freeway at the same speed. We don't all arrive at the same destination or at our destinations on time. None of it matters. It's what we get out of photography in the moment, in our presence. So don't get in a hurry about, and don't get discouraged if you don't think your photography is good right away, because photography is all about practice. It's about practice. It's about trial and error. It's about making a bunch of mistakes and learning from your mistakes and embracing your mistakes, because every time you make a mistake, as frustrating as it may be, the more frustrating it is, the less apt you're going to do it in the future. So just relax. Photography, we love it. Okay, go out and photograph with friends. Try to find somebody that is a little bit better than you, that knows a little bit more, that's willing to help. You got to remember that even the mentor is still learning. I mean, the mentor is just further down the trail, and so the mentor is just telling you what's down the trail. So don't look at anybody as a master, especially when it comes to photography, because I know in my situation, if I ever stop learning about photography, it won't be any fun anymore. And so even the advice that I give, it may not be the best advice in the world, but it's the advice that I know. It's what I know, and this is what I use. And I may learn next year that the advice that I'm given this year has been replaced with some better advice. So, okay. And so I guess that's it. I didn't want to make this too long, but I wanted to at least throw some advice out there for people. And these are just things that I've learned in my photography journey. And I'm just starting out in a new journey here in YouTube. And I hope you guys will hang in here with me. I'm going to do my best to post as many videos as I can. I don't want to put up a bunch of junk. I just want to put some good stuff out there, and I want to help everybody with their photography. So if you enjoy my YouTube channel, promise this is going to get better as time goes by. Please do me a favor and subscribe. My goal right now is 1,000 subscribers, and I'm about halfway there. So as they say, like, subscribe, and if you click on the little bell down there, you'll get a notice that my videos have come up. So anyhow, thanks everybody. I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do for me. I love you, and until the next video, take care. Thanks. Bye.